Data loss is common. 70% of business people experience data loss, with the top 3 causes of data loss being a hardware or software failure, human error, or malware or ransomware. Data loss is expensive. The average cost per lost or stolen record with personal or confidential information, regardless of the cause of the loss, is $148. Downtime is costly. The average cost of downtime per hour is $100,000. Did you know the #1 mistake made by businesses with a disaster recovery solution is not having a plan? Every hour down, every file lost means real impact to productivity and your bottom line. It's time to reevaluate your capabilities to recover in the face of cyber threats, equipment and software failures, and unavoidable human error. What if you could have enterprise-class disaster recovery with zero capital investment? Easy DR using existing VMware investments. Connectivity to your trusted VMware cloud provider in minutes. As fast as 5-minute recovery times. Disaster recovery as a service based on VMware technologies and delivered by certified VMware cloud providers gives you worry-free protection against downtime and data loss with faster recovery times and a fully managed environment. And it accelerates your on-ramp to the cloud. Disaster recovery as a service provided by VMware Cloud Partners is simple. Set up and validate in minutes using familiar VMware solutions. It's cost-effective, requiring no upfront capital or infrastructure to manage, and easily scales to accommodate growth. And it's secure. Your trusted VMware Cloud Partner provides built-in encryption for data at rest and in motion. Ready to get started? It's easy. Start by visiting our website. You'll be presented with a library of resources to learn more about VMware's disaster recovery as a service, including how to install, configure, and deploy. When you're ready, click here to show a list of authorized providers. Once you've picked a partner, complete the form to let the partner know you're ready to begin. Your new cloud partner will reach out to you soon to get your service underway and to help you start protecting workloads day one.
Hey everyone, and welcome to VMware Tech Talk series. My name is Guy Bartram, and I'm the Director of Product Marketing and responsible for Cloud Director suite of products in VMware's Cloud Services Business Unit. And today we're joined with Eiad as well. Eiad, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Eiad Al-Aqqad. I'm a lead solution engineer within the VMware Cloud Provider program at Metna. Back to you, Guy.
So today we're going to be talking about disaster recovery, addressing the question about why DR is important, how you can simply protect your infrastructure, and hopefully the top 3 things you'll learn from this session is, what is the scope of disaster recovery and business continuity, some of the important concepts around disaster recovery, and really the reality of disaster recovery and how it affects companies that potentially don't take out the coverage and capability that disaster recovery provides. So let's dive into the reality today. Really, downtime is very expensive. Obviously, downtime is the downtime and effect of your applications that support your business. If they are down and you're unable to operate, if they're mission critical applications, then that's obviously a very serious consequence for you, and the downtime is extremely expensive because the business can't operate. At the same time, data loss is very, very common. As you can see here, 70% of businesses experience data loss due to manual deletion by accident, disk failures, common scenarios. These are things that happen regularly, and unfortunately, you have to then go into your backups or your disaster recovery solution to go and get the data back. And data loss is very expensive. You think about those sales records that potentially are wiped then from your systems. That's all really important intelligence that helps you operate your business. And getting those records back is really difficult. So what causes downtime? This is an interesting slide. I mean, I think you can look at this now and look at natural disasters and other things, but actually the most common causes of downtime are power outages, problems with UPSs, internal infrastructure within the data center, air conditioning units leaking, for example, fire systems, halon systems malfunctioning, network failure. This happens more often than not, and obviously IT and software errors are also very large causes of downtime.
Oh, that's interesting, Guy. So I was expecting actually the natural disasters to be showing up in the slide as a percentage, but it sounds like it's too small comparing to the others.
Yeah, if you think about it, I mean, it depends where you where you are geographically in the world. Obviously, there are some areas of the world which are much more sort of, active in terms of the actual geological problems, for example, like earthquakes and stuff like that. But most of us, we're in areas of the world where we don't suffer with natural disaster geological environments, you have things like kicking out the power supply from the back. You pull out a network connection without realizing what it's actually connected to. And these things then, take time to reroute or identify where the error is. The root cause analysis is never that quick. So, it is actually not necessarily 100% or not necessarily a large chunk in terms of natural disasters.
Oh, so it sounds like even those who's in countries that's not affected by natural disasters are still need to worry about actually disaster recovery scenarios as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's very important to cover your business to ensure that you can recover your business in a timely period.
Right.
And data loss as well. I mean, I mentioned it before, but the top kind of causes of data loss, hardware and software failure, human error, and particularly now we're seeing a massive rise in malware, and at this time we're seeing a lot of people, malicious intent, taking companies and even consumers directly, stealing their information and using this information for other purposes. So malware is particularly harmful. It's something that can sit there for quite a while and be unidentified. Ransomware is obviously a bit more dramatic in its approach, in that it locks you out straight away and then demands money from typically to a Bitcoin account or something like that to try and recover. But these type of things, once you've had your drive encrypted or you've had this data removed, that data, you're not going to get it back. You can pay the ransomware, but typically you're not going to get the data back. You're not going to be decrypted, and the data is lost forever. So the best solution is obviously to prevent those type of activities, but in case the prevention fails as well, because a lot of them are very, very clever these days, you need to have a fallback position.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have heard actually about a few large incidents in our region lately about ransomware hits. Unfortunately, I can't mention the names due to security of the reasons of the data, but yeah, it's been happening. So I think all my customers need to make sure they're ready for such a hit.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's very, very important to recognize this now. There is a huge rise in us using, remote working, and everyone's using hosted or cloud solutions at the moment. So having coverage and protection for your estates, whether they're in your office, at your home, or in a data center, is absolutely critical. And when we look at the customer story here, there's some frightening numbers here actually around application continuity. 1 in 3 hit by a malware attack within the past 12 months, 1 in 3 customers. 65% of test plans routinely fail. And we'll talk a little bit about testing in a minute and the importance of testing, because you're only as good as your last test, basically. But a shocking number of customers still have no DR for mission critical or business critical applications, or no protection for these applications, which is obviously a very high risk to be in. You've worked years to grow your business. You're not going to kind of throw it away by not protecting it.
So Guy, why would actually a lot of our customer does not have a DR? Is it they're not aware of the risk, or is it actually there's other reasons why they're not doing it? I mean, maybe you want to tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so DR is, has been traditionally quite a complicated, all-encompassing program of activity that involves various technologies, and it has been hard for customers to implement, but once they implement it, it's hard to keep testing it, it's hard to keep on top of it, and as your business changes, and particularly now as cloud rises and applications are spun up and new business applications form all the time, building those into the continuity plan, and I guess this is a good time to kind of drive into what the continuity plan would look like, but building those new applications into the continuity plan is something that would then require testing, reissue of the whole continuity plan, and that's tough to keep on top of. So it's quite a program of activity and a project to get DR covered, but then it's also an ongoing program to keep it covered, and that's why a lot of customers fall behind or don't even start it.
Yeah, makes sense.
So if they do start it, there is the kind of the complexity involved, like I've just mentioned. And if you think about, the complexity from a hardware perspective, the complexity from a software perspective is even more. Being able to restart an application in a separate location. What is using the application? What is the application feeding? So what are the inputs and outputs of the application? Does the IP address of the application change? Am I able to reach my identity and access management solution with the application started in the target location so I can still actually get to the application? Very difficult to take all these things into account, and hence, people don't tend to test them a lot. Infrequent testing is a real problem because the testing in classic DR is a really big kind of job to do a DR test and actually to run a full end-to-end DR test. And we see a lot of errors in DR testing, which then makes it even more difficult to go back and kind of correct where the errors are and rerun the testing. So it ends up being a very expensive operation, taking a lot of time, requiring duplicate hardware, duplicate software, duplicate storage, and that's a real taking on for a customer to do.
Right, makes sense. And I think, on the DR testing, which I think you're probably going to hopefully give us a solution later. I believe an untested DR is almost like a no DR.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's like non-tested.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for backup. Non-tested backup is a no backup, but it's the same thing apply really for DR. So hopefully we'll show you as well how we could solve this with the solution.
Absolutely. So first of all, let's just go rewind to a little bit to look at what is the scope of DR and what we're going to talk about today. DR is really a DR plan is really business continuity. It's about bringing business continuity to the forefront and being able to recover your business in the instance of a DR. Depending on what that DR is, it could be the power's gone, whatever it is, data loss. I need to be able to recover back and quickly. This is not necessarily the same as backup, which is more about long-term archiving. This is being able to recover within a certain set time period. So there needs to be a plan in place. There needs to be a scope of what applications actually need DR. Not all applications need DR. And there's various levels of application that we'll cover in a minute. People need to be assigned to be able to activate this. There needs to be a recovery team and roles and responsibilities assigned. And then you need a technology that's going to be able to replicate. And this is important, right? There's different types of ways you can transfer data from a source to a target. You need to be able to replicate those workloads. You need to be able to then restore and do regular testing of the disaster recovery scenarios you want to be able to have the confidence that you've got a suitable solution to cater for a disaster. And there's various kind of concepts that we need to make sure people understand when we're looking at the technology of disaster recovery. RPO and RTO. RTO is a recovery time objective. This is kind of the time it's going to take to get all functionality restored. Recovery point objective is really the last known viable restore point. So the last time your data was kind of, if you like, taken a snapshot of. So it's the last known good point to recover from. And those are essential because when you start looking at disaster recovery as a service and start looking at things like workload characteristics and understanding your estate, you've really got to be able to understand, right, what's mission critical, what's business critical, what's non-critical. And as you can see here, we've got definition around what are the typical timings from a recovery time and recovery point objectives for those different workload characteristics. So mission critical you would define as something you cannot survive without, like a credit card company cannot survive without a credit card transaction system. Yeah, they would be down in seconds, and millions would be lost, and their business would be ruined. Whereas business critical is something you can survive for a short time without it, but it is very important to your business to run, and you need it back up, within hours. Whereas non-critical is things like personal files, where you don't actually need it back up and running within hours. Days would be satisfactory. So different kind of replications, potentially different type of RPOs, and different types of methods of protecting the data can be used for these different types of application. And then when we look at testing, so testing is really important. When we look at running a DR test, there's various things you want, right? You don't want the test to impact ongoing replication. I don't want all of my disaster recovery to stop replicating while I'm doing a test, because I might actually have a disaster at that point, or I might need to restore some data from that point. So it's got to be not impacting your existing production replication. It's also got to be not impacting your business process too much. You want to make testing as simple to do and as effective to do as possible, that you're reducing that unproven recoverability gap to the last known good test, but you're also not going to be making it so extensive that it's going to be impossible and take days to run. So you need to think about the schedule that you want to run, and when you're looking at disaster recovery as a service, you need to be able to have a product that provides simple testing, no downtime, be non-impactful, and really that reduces that unproven recoverability gap. So as an operator or someone in charge of the solution, you can actually get your out of hours time back, which we all have lost doing these type of things before in the past, using extensive testing and stuff that has impacted our weekends and evenings.
So I guess with us not having to secure a weekend or an after hours to do this, probably we can do it more often, it sounds like.
Okay, so typically you'd be looking at recovering an application maybe once a month would be a good test time frame. But if you've got an application that is business critical, there's a lot of changes going on in the environment, you want to be testing that more frequently. And you want to be automating that test process. So you can bring up the application, run a few scripts against the application, make sure it's actually behaving as it should be behaving, and then just destroy that replicant that you've bought online. So you want a solution that's going to be able to deliver that sort of functionality to you in a self-service manner.
Yeah, and I think actually requiring a downtime and effect and impact of earlier traditional testing mechanism was the part which reduced the amount of testing our customer were using for their DR. So with the solution we're describing here, they can actually do that without having to worry about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So increase the frequency of testing. Highly automated testing is much more preferable, because it's obviously less impact for you, less time that you have to kind of to manage this process. So what if you could have all of this? You could have an enterprise class disaster recovery solution, zero capital investment. This is often, the big challenge and the big hurdle with disaster recovery is you've got to buy all this hardware and put it in the target site when it's not actually going to be used at all. It's going to sit there, just, you're just replicating storage. On the odd test, you're going to use compute. So it's a very ineffective way of using capital investment. You want a solution that's simple to implement. You want to start replicating from your source side, your vSphere estate, to a target estate, and you don't want to have to retrain. You want to use your existing solution sets, your vSphere client, and because it's vSphere to vSphere, one vSphere environment to another vSphere environment, there's no conversion, there's no risk. You can fail forwards and fail backwards, which is ideal for disaster recovery. And connect to a partner to provide that infrastructure for you, so you don't have to fulfill that capital investment up front. It's much easier to use a partner's estate to do this, and cater for up to a 5-minute recovery point objective.
Yeah, and I think another couple of 2 items I would add there, guys. Actually, the partner they're replicating to is local, so they still in compliance with data have to be stored locally. The other one is actually the solution doesn't have to be as much installed as it's out of the box in the new vSphere client. So if you're actually doing vSphere 7, as soon as you open vSphere 7, you will have the solution out there ready for you to invoke and start using.
Yeah, absolutely. And vSphere 7 has the Cloud Director Availability, which is the product we're discussing here, has that functionality built into the client already. So it's very simple for you to find a service provider within your region who's providing a disaster recovery service using Cloud Director Availability, and you can then just start replicating to them once you've agreed a specific amount of resource on their side.
Yeah, and we'll be sharing a demo of how the whole process works in a minute. So I'll let you.
Sure. So just from a very high level then, the kind of use cases we're looking at, VMware Cloud Director Availability in your vSphere clients today can start replicating, at a time you want of a bandwidth that you need to securely over either public internet or over private connections, depending on what you want to use, obviously, and what the service provider is going to give you, to a provider data center where you have a virtual org estate, secure estate of your storage and your compute that you can then test against when needed. And like I said, you can fail, so you can replicate from site to cloud, and you can also replicate from cloud back to site. So the product is synchronous. You can run replication and failovers and test failovers from either the source or the target, which is nice. It means that, if there's a disaster, you log into the target site, you implement disaster recovery, and you're done. If there's, if you can access the UI from either end, then it obviously makes a lot more sense from a disaster recovery perspective. And you can implement your own schedule of testing. And as we'll see in a demo, there's various kind of tiers that you can choose from, various RPOs. And obviously, the smaller the RPO, the more storage you're going to use, i.e. the higher the cost it's going to be for you to manage that solution. So think very carefully about what's mission critical, what requires a high RPO of 5 minutes, because once you start taking a point in time instance every 5 minutes, you're going to start consuming quite a lot of storage. Obviously, for a mission critical application, that makes sense because it's going to be changing fast and your business can't survive without it. But if it's a business critical application, you might want to bring that down to 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour.
Yeah, and I think as our cloud providers is running the same vSphere that our customers running on-prem, there is no reformatting or change of format, which make, as you mentioned, failing over and failing back quite easily. And as most of our customers are in location where a cloud provider is available locally, that means the data could still exist in the same country or the same geo that's they required.
Yeah.
So they could be in compliance with the security and regulations that required.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really important. Remember, when you start moving your data into another location, that data is still your responsibility. So you need to make sure that the provider cloud that you're going to be using does adhere to the correct compliance that is needed for you, for your industry vertical, and for your region. Now, many cloud providers obviously will be compliant. They have to be. But again, just to re-emphasize, that data is yours. So it's very important. And you're right in recognizing that this is a unique opportunity. We've heard of disaster recovery as a service before. However, I would say probably 80% of disaster recovery solutions out there are actually migration solutions under the covers, because you can't really test if you're going to be doing a conversion, because then you have to convert to a different format, convert back to fail back. That's not a disaster recovery solution. That's a one-way migration typically. So this is quite unique in that it is a disaster recovery solution. It's the only disaster recovery solution that works with the virtualized clouds at the service provider's target site. And it's one of the only disaster recovery solutions that VMware kind of has in its portfolio that is plugged into vSphere, very easy to use, doesn't require training. Point and click DR is what a lot of our providers call it as they offer it to their customers. And of course, just the final use case here is obviously if you are in a provider cloud today, then you still need to protect those workloads. You can protect them back to your on-prem, or you can protect them to another provider cloud. The choice is up to you, depending obviously what the provider offers. So on-prem, you can protect your workloads to cloud, back to on-prem, or from cloud to cloud. So it's very flexible in the use cases and scenarios it covers. Right, so should we drop into a demo now, Eiad, and you can show us the solution?
All right, so let's go for a quick demo. This is the familiar and everybody love vSphere HTML5 client. Now in vSphere 7 and higher, you would have the DRaaS service tab showing up in here and welcoming you as soon as you install it. In previous versions of vSphere, you needed to install the plugin for DRaaS service, but in 7 and higher, you have it out of the box. If you click on it, it will get you actually into the screen to get you started and help you how to configure it to connect to one if your cloud to the cloud provider partner of your choice. Now, I have done that in my lab. Now, if I want to protect a workload, all I have to do, I could go to the normal hosting cluster that I'm familiar with, right-click that virtual machine, click DRaaS service, hit configure protection. Now, I hit next on this particular screen. Here I choose which virtual data center as well storage policy at the cloud provider I want to use, and I could hit next there. Then choose the particular policy and SLA I want to meet from RPO perspective, as well how many point in time and when the replication I wanted to get started. I'm going to choose the bronze policy of my cloud provider in here and click next. Then I have to hit finish, and that replication will start happening, which means I'm protecting my workload to be ready in case of a DR scenario. Now, to look at what's happening in there, I could click on the DRaaS service from the top drop-down menu. Yeah, and that's what give me actually to the dashboard you can see here that show me the amount of bandwidth and storage being used for the replication. Now, if I come here as well, you'll see that VM is started replicating. I have a previous one that's already replicated, so I could use it to demonstrate a failover process. All I have to do is just choose the failover in here. As well, choose the condition I want in the DR site, the point in time image, hit next, and if I hit finish, it will just fail over to the cloud provider site, and it'll be up and running in there. We have in a similar fashion, you can run a test failover, which is allow you to fail over your workload in a test environment at the cloud provider side without affecting the replication or the production environment, which is great from that perspective. Now, if your full setup here is down, you can actually access exactly the same setup at the cloud provider side. As you can see, it have the same look and feel. For those looking for a more detailed demo, please look at the link at the bottom of this video. As well, for those who want a POC with a particular cloud provider in the METNA region, please reach out to one of those we're going to show on the next slide. All right, guys, so actually as well, we have in METNA, we have quite a wide spectrum of cloud providers who support our DRaaS service, just as you saw on the demo a second ago. We have them on the screen here. So we have almost in every country in the region as a cloud provider who specialize in our DRaaS service, and happy to get engaged and offer demos and POCs for our customers. So if you're actually looking for somebody in the UAE, for example, we have Etisalat, we have Moro, we have TRA, as well we have Do in there. If you're looking for somebody in Turkey, we have Turkcell. If you're looking for somebody in Kuwait, we have Lean Services. In Saudi Arabia, we have STCS, Mobily. And in Egypt, we have Vodafone. In Morocco, we have Enwi. In Tunisia, we have Focus. And in Libya, we have Al Madar. So we have actually a quite spectrum of those cloud providers. They're happy to discuss the next step with you. If you actually have any question, please reach out to me, myself, or to Guy, my colleague here, or as well your local system engineer or salesperson from VMware. We're happy to actually work with you and get you to the right, connected to the right provider.
Sure, thanks, Eiad. And it's really great to see the choice that's available to customers within your region. I think there's a lot of great providers there doing a lot of great services with Cloud Director and Cloud Availability. So really happy to see the coverage we've got for the area.
Yeah, it's definitely great, and hope actually even for those who's in a country by any chance that does not have a provider, please reach out, because we still actually bring in quite a few others that actually being launched in the next quarter, a few days as well. So it's always great. So just please reach out in case you're interested and you don't see a provider into your area that's being launched and ready.
Got it.
Right, I'm trying to get to the lovely here. All right, so I hope all you have enjoyed and learned from this webinar, and I just wanted to remind you of two things. Available exclusively content through the link in description, so please look at the link in the description down there. And also make sure to visit our Facebook group for those who haven't. So if you actually got to this video through a direct link and you haven't seen our Facebook group with a list of other videos that we have as a part of our Tech Talks, please reach out there and look, because we have a lot of other valuable contents that's been created, as well as some other that's happening over the next few days and couple of months. Thank you very much for attending. Please keep in touch and feel free to contact us. Again, there is a link on the contact below that you can actually reach us out into. Thank you very much. And any last word, Guy, from your side?
No, not really. Just to say thanks, Eiad, for a great demo. I hope for all the customers out there that was quite clear on the value proposition and how to look at the DR as a service solution and the type of value it brings them. I hope we covered the points we started to, we addressed at the beginning, which we said we wanted people to learn about the scope of DR, about how DR as a service can be run and what is important to consider for DR. And hopefully you can all see that cloud availability is a good solution which meets your needs. So thank you.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, it's totally a part of your vSphere 7, so it's actually very easy to consume into your client. It's like you don't have to learn as much, too much skills or learn something totally from scratch. All right, thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day, and looking forward to get in touch.